Our society is oriented around commodification, violence, and privatization. Only break from the ideology of violence can be ruptured, desymbolized, to road, when violence is commodified, violent practice, normalized by the we come to a lot of violence that shape our daily experiences. The practice of message we give from capitalism, privatize everything. Americans talk about why violence is essential to identity, not just through narratives, but through forces that produce such violence. Contingent one is a hyper-reality, enter the handgun. The media representations depict the handgun as a savior, always preempting anyone from hurting you and saving you from the criminal. Although this state of fear is now accepted as reality, and we purchase it all the same. Sugarman, we know the shouting down. This state of fear becomes so accepted we rarely acknowledge the handgun as exists. Voices fearing handgun makes problems best off with the fears to arm themselves with the very weapons that threaten them. The claims validated by television where handgun makers are perpetrated effective violence sanitized by the media, spiral violence, buying handguns to protect ourselves from other people with handguns. Couple of impacts. First, the preemptive is taken over the handgun as part of a broader societal goal of destroying evil. We begin to demarcate populations that fit our construction of evil, and thus begin to preemptively otherwise individuals who fit our demarcations of them. Baudrillard 1. Additional image tidily fabricated, every accidental feature is exercised, all emotion is removed, crimes prevented, poison can take place without ever knowing who would have happened. All this is eradication of evil today pursued materially. It is becoming objective reality, the higher growth of the body has become an integral defense system. Second, the simulacra that exists around us is focused on finality. It solidifies the linearity of time that makes things like death seem permanent. To focus on death as an event is the original hierarchy of the abnormal and reduces the human to a machine of utility that either works or it doesn't. Robinson 1. We have lost the ability to change death as for first metamorphosis, subjective transformation of West idea, biological death, is axiom, illusion, or ignore sociological death, split life and environment, opposition to the division, life and death is the original opposition which other founded. The exclusion of the dead is defined as abnormal view, death, bottom view, death is the bottom of the sheet, human body street similarly. And lastly, the simulacra is infectious, devoid of true interaction, every movement will have its frenetic energy redirected to elude the gears of capital. That means to strive to die for the Baudrillard 2. Hyper-reality turns of every objective we should come back by secreting last glimmer of reality does nothing but accelerate the simulation. My society works towards overproducing and restore the real escape to the wise material protection is hyper-real itself in the game is nothing with a touch with power. Contingent to is the symbolic exchange. I advocate that in the United States private ownership of handguns ought to be banned as an act of absolute expenditure. The symbolic exhumation of the handgun is a departure from the symbolic order, and it is only through this that we enter into a process known as symbolic exchange, a process of childlike fascination, which the recognition of our interconnectedness occurs. The destruction surplus reorients how we view production. Things become reversible. As we have taken, so too do we give back. Binaries of gender, sexuality, life and death dissolve by the wayside. As we watch the flames transform the handgun into the universe around us. Robinson 2. The symbolic outside representation hints radically out of their institutional capitalist system. There were societies without the social data based on networks, symbolic ties, they were outside protection because their social forms based on excess, expenditure, and symbolic. Nothing taken from nature without being returned. They were outside the logic of production. We are not born. They become through initiation, exchange allows people to enter around where things are not arbitrary responses, intense, escorting others. Demands for meaning set opposite. I also consider society works fashion replaced by a different fascination. There was an absence of reproducibility to change objects. This individuality rips them out of use, value, subject not to master the object, except being analyzed by the interchange become reversible. The exchange destroys the separation of modernity, this reverse linear time which capitalism is ground establishes time cyclical. Modern culture seems to have moved forward on modern unconscious reign around ideas of killing the indigenous range around ideas of giving exchange, symbolic exchange, refuses any separation of life and death. This is the process beyond the economic initiation governs our relationship with the violence bonds. This has become a problem today. It's also a situation where collective science produces rituals rather than science producing culture, and the symbolic exchange enters us into a oneness, no longer separated by the arbitrary classifications of capital, but embracing each other as beings as we dance around the fire. Robinson 3. All differences are exchangeable, reversible, never incident. Every discrimination is imaginary. The curse of the chair is fragments of one and life through the way, thereby entering into a cycle, giving, receiving, return. This is key to bringing down the system. And action on the plane of the real will inevitably fail. Only through symbolic action can we garner solvency. Baudrillard 3. We will not destroy the system by direct revolution, political, everything's producible. If feedback to the mechanism works, shares believe that we put an end to the system on the plane of the real. We must displace everything that's fear symbolic so that we can respond to death. Contention 3 is orientation. The role of the judge is to serve as a critical educator who endorses the examination of epistemology, the context of power. Education cannot exist outside the context of power, therefore it becomes crucial that we examine the foundation of modern violence and develop strategies to alleviate this harm. Giroux. Education does not exist outside related power, politics, ethics, demands, and openness to the other. Engage in politics, possibility through critical engagement. Education should offer the opportunity to resist calls, equal access, pedagogy, objectivity, educational rethink, and ideological badges to each educational encounter. And my methodology is irrelevant. The state of fear which we live is focused around the material. We buy guns because we desire to take control when there is none. We ignore the symbolic power of the handgun, ensuring another atrocity will occur. Before we get to look at the material, we must first examine the symbolic implications. Ropehead. Much has been said about guns, but the market the danger of guns, but they're not their meaning symbols until we examine what guns represent. Debate will rage on, flaring yet another terrible gun crime leads us no closer to the world we desire. Guns provide a sense of control, ability to protect oneself when it feels like a threatening world. Owning guns, you feel that you are taking control of the fight. It will not be won on the battleground of facts and figures. Gun rights are a symbolic weapon. The conflict now tearing America apart. Without these first steps, we will not be able to find a solution, and therefore the world about its best liberation strategy from the shackles of symbolic order to combating oppression. We must neglect calls to the empiricism of systematic intervention and instead embrace imminence, that is to say, action without strategy. Besner. The only possible engagement is a motive, the vertigo which is will be an endless action to collective language, makes the existence of paradox active for no reason at all. All one can do is keep call upon the emptiness which sustains history. As an underview, don't run theory.
1, if the neg finds something abusive about my app, they must mention it in CX to allow me to make concessions to them. That's key to fairness, says allows the neg to give concessions to CX. Key to education allows us to focus on the substance of the debate. 2, reasonability comes first. User reasonability is a filter to allow me to weigh the AC against theory in terms. This allows us to crowd out meaningless in terms and focus on the educational bit of the C activity. 3, I'll concede any and all reasonable / generic DA links as long as they're checked across examination, but I reserve the right not to do so. 4, my mechanism for banning is normal means. 5, only look to actual abuse. Even if I have the potential to be abusive, there's no way to verify it actually pull the trigger. That's key to the norming argument because it ensures that people run theories that check on abuse rather than as a strat. I don't know how to.
Got it. That's cool. All right. Ready?
Yeah.
So you defend a post-fiat ban of handguns.
Pretty much.
Okay, so you defend through normal means?
Yeah, I would say that the system is key to bringing down itself, but not through a material plane, only through recognition of the symbolic.
So when you say that we need a strategy to alleviate harm, but then you further that saying my method is irrelevant, that we should act without strategy, how do you reconcile these two differences?
It's actually not a concept that needs reconciliation. The rule about is in place because of the ROPEC evidence. I say through the ROPEC evidence that the continuation or perpetuation of the status quo is the focus on material.
Right.
It's things like
Giroux seems to say that we need material strategies for how we can sort of reclaim the, the epistemologies of the oppressed and, and intellectual spheres. So how do you say that we don't need a clear method?
I'm saying that I have a clear method. My method does not dabble in the material. The continuation of the status quo is because of a focus on material implications. We should act without strategy. It's not acting without.
Okay, so if we're acting without strategy, why did you choose to focus on handguns today?
Because that's 1, the topic, and 2, the best liberation strategy that.
So you're still bound by the material realities of the topic.
Not on a post-fiat level, no.
But you just said you advocate for the topic post-fiat, yes?
I advocate for the implementation of my advocacy on a post-fiat level. On a pre-fiat level, I would say that topical education is probably good. It's why K debate should be probably constrained to the topic, at least somewhat. But that's just my pre-fiat personal opinion, which does not affect my post-fiat.
So let me ask you a few questions about the larger context of your critique. Yeah. What is the symbolic?
The symbolic is anything that doesn't deal with the material. It is the value that we attribute to certain items through not only cultural singularities, but through media representations as well.
I got that.
Stuff like that.
So on your Robinson evidence, you say reversibility dissolves binaries. Are all binaries bad?
Depends. Like, it's not that the symbolic exchange dissolves all binaries, it's that it erases hierarchized binaries, i.e. the white and the black, where an individual.
So how do you decide what is a hierarchical binary?
It's not for me to decide. It's when people enter into the symbolic exchange, they recognize, oh, hey, we're all beings. I have no more molecular value than the person that I deem as inferior.
So then why does that not constrain us from certain actions towards each other? Like, isn't there acceptable and unacceptable things that we should or should not do for each other?
Like, you mean in the status quo? Because,
no, I mean, like, as
there's
people,
stuff like that. As stuff like people, yeah, there's stuff that I certainly would not do, but a right-wing, hella conservative militiaman guarding the border from the illegals might not feel the exact same way, which is what I critique.
What do you do for the world?
A symbolic exchange. I ban handguns. Like, on the material plane, I ban handguns. That's all I do.
And what do you think the implication of that is?
The implication, I mean, you're asking a very broad question. The implication would be the 1AC, which is a reversibility, i.e. a symbolic exchange, which allows us to recognize that we are all beings and our value is only what we attribute to it.
I'm going to take part. Can the simulacra change?
Through symbolic action, yes. Through material interaction, no. It'll just be back into the cycle of the simulacra. Like, we have a strategy grounded in the real. It's only going to reinstate like the simulacra because, like, okay. Mr. Fahey, do you want me to find you on a stand where we can brought that up.
I'm okay.
It seems like
I'm actually surprised I'm doing as well as I am.
Okay, one more question.
So,
So what do you mean in the Robinson evidence where it makes death seem permanent? What does that mean for, after biological death? What does that constitute for a being?
after biological, the Robinson evidence, the first piece of Robinson evidence at least indicates that death is just a rearrangement of matter, and a significance attributed to death.
Is that not a significant event?
It's not a non-significant event, but it's not the significance that the status quo prescribes to it, right? When people die, we're like, that is the end of being, when in reality, many cultures around the world view it as just a continuation of a process of becoming. So not only are we creating a form of cultural singularity, but it is the original opposition upon which almost all of us were founded, because everyone in their drive to escape death will carry out some very messed up shit. Like, we will do horrendous things to make sure that we don't die. And the avoidance of a non-event is probably pretty bad.
I have 144 left.
How many?
What?
How many on?
Just one, and then Casey.
One off and then the case.
I think it should be on there. The name of the file is Jerry Seinfeld. It's in the else folder. You'll be able to find it.
Thank you. I was getting scared.
Nothing to be scared of here, especially not that.
Oh, Jerry. Yes. You really are the LD version of Cat Magnets, yeah. Come on, dude. Has this been all your neck rounds here? Like theirs was?
Just round 4. Just round 4.
Okay, alright.
Round 1 went for Babby.
I'm super disinvolved from high school politics, so I don't understand any of these references.
Okay.
Alright. Is everyone ready? Great. Welcome to the Anthropocene, where extinction lurks behind every corner. Ecological extinction is inevitable and irreversible. The essential with the future ensures we will never even notice us plummeting towards our own demise and paves our destruction of the biosphere that we have created. The ass focus on the future of the human fails to see the forest due to quickly disappearing trees, as Cohen in 12. Warnings regarding errors and depletion of resources like this, and more routine tweets and events that have peak everything. The logic of 21st century airscape, historical process, hyperconception, and perpetual growth, and new phase of sustainability, present, which opposes status quo, person will sustain self-slung, responsible at whatever cost, regimes have its prolonged and defended construct of homeland security, unity, system security, have a killer rate, catastrophic imaginaries that are sense justified propriety, that allows us to remain secure in our homeland, that even intense occupation resonates with, a practice of disidentification and perpetual cognitive disjunctures that come up against the catastrophic present, or with this occupied figure subjectivity, refusing not only commodification of the other, but also the later more repulsive to other reductive beings. And banning handguns is a liberal reform that masks the underlying violence and criminality produced by capitalism and the Anthropocene. They do not look to the future, they subvert their view from your unregulated third world that's Holland 15. The current politics are conrated under, say, underlying carcinogenic conditions to maintain optimism. We are told that the world can be transformed without altering fundamental structure. Criminology should be driven by rigorous investigation of microcosm, the underlying macrocosmic context. They share de-industrialized sense where criminal markets are seamlessly woven into everyday life, structure entirely by capitalism and dark web. Bodies are instantly available. Everything from sex and handguns to fake medicines and rules to be produced very real consequences for material luxury for the elite, that's it. Harmful existence of poverty and for rights into the criminality for the losers at the bottom. In the hands of the problems we face are too big for our current political and cultural systems challenge. Organic criminal markets about the number among these problems. Direct results of the markets they shall live in a privatized economy, hyper ideals, farmers, and criminological theory are little more than symptoms of adaptive conformity to our inherited and economic material circumstances. The majority actively solicit a system symbolic order and intended security system as they sense themselves as vulnerable, isolated individuals in a competitive market, leaving us down and turning the intellectual product for representing where we are now, historical point A, which will give us clues to what we need to do with historical point B, reforms to the biopolitics regime, simply tell us how to make life more comfortable. Point A, this is neither true philosophy nor true social science. And the apocalypse is not something to be prevented, but recognize its ongoing. We need to cut our losses, ensure we don't harm the biosphere more than we already have. The new context of the Anthropocene means we have new political responsibilities towards the non-human world that come before ourselves, that come before things like reversibility, that come before all of these human-centric notions that the Aff relies upon in the symbolic order that only involves humans at the end of the day to swing it down at 13. The problems of the apocalyptic era has to be fully rejected. It's already here. Common struggles for food refugees, suspect to social ecological predicament that choreographed everyday life things have already been too late. The apocalyptic imaginary holds out to a dualistic view of nature and culture, acidification of biodiversity, transformation, climate change, humans and nature, co-produce the affirmation of historical, geographical co-production society with nature, politicized nature, the transformation of both society and nature has to be envisaged as perspective is against thinking through politics of the environment, politicizing the environment, the non-human world, because the world of positive politicization, the Anthropocene opens up a terrain where different natures can be contemplated. The alternative is to learn how to die gracefully. The end is near with no tinfoil hats in sight. We either die in fear or live authentically and try our best to leave the earth intact. That starts with rejecting the short-sighted, human-centric theory of the F that's granted in 13. The Anthropocene poses a challenge not to our way of life. The great challenge the Anthropocene poses made to be to our sense of what it means to be human. We face the imminent collapse of the agricultural, shipping, and energy networks upon which the global economy depends on a large scale life in the biosphere that's already on its way in our extinction. Is species extinction gives profound causes to scholars see heroically else to introduce. How will arguments between object-oriented ontology and historical materialism protect honeybees from colony collapse disorder? The biggest problem the Anthropocene poses are those at the root of humanistic questioning. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to live? What does it mean life mean in the face of death? How we have learned to live, learn how to die now as individuals, but as civilization, meditation, inevitable death should be performed daily. Instead of fearing my end, I do need to worry because I was already dead. When I look at the Anthropocene, I see water rising up to wash out lower Manhattan. I see food rights, hurricanes, and climate refugees. The human psyche naturally rebels against the idea that it won't be addressed by buying a Prius. The biggest problem we face is a philosophical and understanding that civilization is already dead. The sooner we confront this problem, the sooner we realize there's something we can do to save ourselves. The sooner we can get down to hard work adapting to our new reality. The role of the ballot is to vote for a debate over the best frame of humanity's relationship to nature, the imminence of the Anthropocene, making this our foremost educational responsibility as ecological thought print in 11. Where does nature from? My class where I asked this question, students repeated there, immediately pointing out the window. I hope students would question dualistic worldview. There's a clear division between human and natural world. One examination, separation between humans and nature. Hope little truth as living beings were conceived through union two outsiders are. Lives grow in its environment. As a child grows to understanding a place in the world, she naturally maintains this sense of interconnectedness in the individual. She is part of a great system of life in this industrial worldview where we see self-serving ways to legitimize and destructive behavior towards a more than human world of belief in dualism is forced. Now, let's go on case. Silly Whitley, why would you say try or die for the Aff in a critique of death? This may be a slip in the tongue, but proves a larger flaw in the case. Denying death impacts recreates obsession over death, triggers all of their impacts as a turn to the case. That's all over 98. Advocacy is the denial that's the speak about death. I don't see it is still that that's compelling them to speak, performing a desperate mimicry of an omniscience which does deny revitalizing death or understanding debate disavowed in the act of vandalizing it. Nothing can be more enlightenment than his megalomania which penetrate the truth of death. Death has not been repressed so much as re-signified in new complex productive ways that legitimize a never-ending analysis of it. The way that what AC emphasizes the death of AC permanent in the status quo right now, and the Robinson evidence just says that ultimately human death is that we're going to be rearranged as different particles, and that's just a continuation of life. However, his focus on what the truth of death may constitute goes against all of his notions of deconstructing actual absolute meaning. This means that he has created a simulacra of his own conceptions of death, which is a turn on the case. But also his obsession of death is eviscerated through an especially pernicious way. Baudrillard-based symbolic construction of reality causes ignorance to actual genocide and mass atrocities, he can never recognize the imminence of the Anthropocene and its empirical realities. There are a few empirical realities in the world that we need to actually recognize, that Baudrillard is sitting in the first role in the academy, simply theorizing about things that he simply cannot address. That's fine in that 89. Baudrillard's passage of imaginative futility of even Foucault, he then proceeds to caution against bourgeois hygiene, mentioned made of what science measures have accomplished against cholera, typhoid, smallpox, etc. Baudrillard resembles a bizarre cross between Christian Science with lunatic communist conspiracy tirades against water supplies. There is no biological essence according to Baudrillard. The monstrosity of such a consumption is like, in light of recent famine in Ethiopia, is purely hubris. And in response to the Sugarman evidence, the way that he shapes the simulacra as oppositional to the gun, the media is actually biased against guns, proves that Aff has an inaccurate depiction of the status quo simulacra, also preferred by evidence from 2015. A lot of mass shootings have happened since 2012, which has caused a meaningful shift, which also means that the simulacra can change in relation to the real. That's Landon Berry in 15. The mainstream media doesn't like that culture. The New York Times suggests that those who keep an AR-15 are indecent. Adam Gopnik of the New Yorker blade NRA supporters for those killed in Sandy Hook, gun owners equals bad guy. That's how the media sees it. Let's go down to the case under Robinson evidence. He says that reversibility is also many covered. There are a few binaries that we should probably keep in mind. There are also a few binaries that we should not keep in mind. For example, the liberal conception of consent versus non-consent as a reason why we should not rape people is probably a good conception of a binary, because that allows for orderly conduct between people, that allows for peaceful relations. However, the dualism between nature and human is a bad dualism that we deconstruct is the critique that we're pointing out here. So his act of reversibility is ultimately going to be why he cannot perm the critique, even if he says that reversibility solves the critique, because this opens up the limits too far. We say that you should prefer ours. He says that we need to examine a liberation strategy, but he does nothing for real people. We talk about empirical realities.
Do you mind if I keep the for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I just said it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can you just let me hit that wall?
I got you.
Alright. Let's get it.
Alright, let's go to the Landon-Berry evidence, where you say the media is actually biased against guns. Let's look at things like, you say prefer this evidence because it's inherently unique, right? 2016 has been pretty counterintuitive to this evidence. I mean, with the election of with the possible nomination of things like Trump and the proliferation of Fox News and the right wing, how is it there an intrinsic bias in 2016?
One of the biggest things in the mainstream media that was held against Bernie Sanders was when he supported a lack of gun control in Vermont to appeal to his constituents.
Right, and that was held against him by a very niche liberal base.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a niche liberal base. That was all over CNN, MSNBC. You seem to think that Fox News is the only bit of the media, but it goes way beyond that. The New Yorker, the New York Times, we can constitute a lot of examples of where the media is actually fighting against guns.
Alright, that's fair. Let's go to the eco-pesque. How is this mutually exclusive in the slightest when the Robinson 2 evidence indicates that a symbolic exchange would internalize a reconciliation with natural differences, like with nature itself?
Right. Our argument is saying that you are sitting in the academy as Baudrillard. You cannot actually keep in mind the empirical realities. Our critique relies on the empirical statement of science that you reject that says that the end of the world is covered.
Where's the one to see a rejection of science?
I mean, our evidence suggests that Baudrillard has historically, and his thought has historically not endorsed scientific thought. You also say that the fact that we cannot rebel on the plane of the real means that we should not form our political actions based on empirical realities. That is text from the 1AC.
Okay.
But if you'd like me to answer the question, our answer is saying that you simply sit there and theorize, but can do nothing to actually have people address the Anthropocene and realize that we have a new politicization where we need to have an obligation towards nature. That requires real action.
How do I link offense into the role of ballot?
Right. You just have to show why your discourse, your method, the 1AC, is a better way to deconstruct the dualism between humans and nature, or show why the dualism between humans and nature is a good thing. I don't think that's true. I think our evidence indicts that, but that would be a reason why. That's why the text of the 1AC says the debater who best, examines our relationship between humans and nature.
I got you. How do I reset this?
Yeah, just hit minutes and seconds at the same time.
Cool. Sorry. order is going to be Aff with extensions, like an overview, extension stuff. And then top down the AC.
Did anything there?
No, nothing new. Sit on your case.
So Aff and then the K.
Yeah.
Let me just reposition myself.
Totally.
Okay, stop down.
Yeah. You good? Judge ready?
You can see the our society's order around commodification, loss, and vegetation, loss becoming normal to other station through the gun status. Typically takes out blackberry evidence which says that the media is intrinsically biased against the gun, which is just empirical, not versus empirical, which we live in the hyperground over truth and constructed through the media that's led to preemption for the prevention of primary other race individuals who fit phenotypic construction key internally to all forms of oppression, including the internal linkage of the other critique often. Second, the view of the handgun solidified the binary between the living and the dead. We seek to escape death, which will carry out the worst atrocities to ensure that we live. The critique actually agrees with this on a micro level. It uses it reduces it to a machine because we either work or we don't, which is the reason the AC controls the value of life, because we have to have a value to death before we have a value of life. It's all respect, so one is symbolically changing the addition way of life, burning the weapons after warfare, dissolving hierarchies in which we live, representing collective notions of all quarter has no hold over. Let's go to the AC top down. First, extended weapons significantly takes out blackberry. Also, Fox News and the militiamen patrolling the border and the militarization, commodification of arms, and the Sasquatch is probably a unique reason why the fetishization of guns is probably a uniquely problematic situation. Secondly, like trumping the nominees also probably proves the inherence of the 1AC. Also, you say denying death leads to a section of death, so that's your Dalton War. This Dalton War is construes not only death theory, but Baudrillard's death theory. Specifically, it's just not taken into account the Robinson evidence, which says that we follow the indigenous way of death thinking into the Dalton War evidence is specific to ivory tower elites contemplating and reformulating their relationship to death, not the indigenous way of life in which we recognize death as a non-event. Furthermore, you say that Baudrillard is to genocide through the Anthropocene through simulations. That's your fine evidence, but one, the ad hominem to its theory specifically linked because it relies on the static notion that the structure in which we live is necessarily a good way for pragmatically weighing who is good and who is bad for theorization. And two, no, this is not the app. The app's not simulation app. I recognize that the real world, I simply use symbolic action to escape it. That does not mean my representation is bad. It simply means that my method might be flawed, but you haven't made an argument to that. Also, you say there are a few binaries that we should keep in mind, i.e. consent, but you have conceded that beings have no desire to harm each other. That includes Reba. We just see beings as beings, and we interact with those beings.
I am probably open for a perm debate because we both seek to collapse dualisms. The AC just takes way better methods. So let's go to the K.
First, there's no link you can see to opposite two evidence. The time cyclical futurism link does not apply because the cycle is going to endlessly repeat itself as long as we act within the material world. This has been empirically proven because we keep focusing on terrorist attacks. We keep focusing on things that only matter because we grant them value in the first place, which is the reason the critique probably does not link to the 1AC. Also, you said that handgun mass capitalism and virtue from the third world, but the cross by the ROPEC evidence is a link term because focusing on material allows it. Big companies to obscure the destruction of the natural world with minor statistics. Is why oil companies are still saying, oh, yeah, no, global warming is totally not happening, and they're reading a bunch of bullshit statistics about why the Arctic ice caps are actually growing. It's exactly what the ACC is to reconcile in the first place. Let's go to the alternative. You said that we should learn how to die gracefully. We both learn how to die. Our methods for doing so are actually not that far apart. Do the AC, and then the alternative, we allow the symbolic order to collapse, and we collapse the material conditions, and then once we are in that position of structural disenfranchisement, where we have recognized that we are open to the exterior, do we learn how to die gracefully, interact with the world that collapses capitalism, which you can see to the root cause of all the impacts coming out of the critique flow. Also, perm to the alternative until the links are non-unique results of the office because we both learn how to die gracefully and collapse capitalism afterwards. Probably beneficial. Also, cross-apply the Robinson 3 evidence that says that after the 1AC we dissolve all difference because all differences are arbitrary and only in the context of capital. Let's go to the rule about first side. Robinson 2 evidence says that we give everything back to nature's reason why legal office in the role about defined with the salty mechanism, which I probably would since you have given no evidence, no literature Robinson 2. Also, I conclude your role about because I say that any action is going to replicate the steps. Well, that's my Baudrillard 3 and 2 evidence, which probably is a reason the rule about independently flows out.
Overview, K, actually, no, it's going to be overview, Aff, K.
Okay.
All right. You have have to evaluate all arguments in the surrounding the context of the Anthropocene. The world's top science is great at ecological disaster, irreversible and ornamental mass, biological extinction. Humans are done for, but the rest of the planet can still make it if we don't screw it up. That means that we need material action. We need to appeal to material reality. As Baudrillard-based evidence says that we cannot answer the problems on the planet of the real. Our alternative requires material solutions. This is an argument that I make in my last speech that goes conceded, which is the reason why he can never permanent critique, but we are going to get to the permanent debate later. Also, he on today's he says something that's a crucial linguistic new link to the critique. He says that on divide evidence that when I said he has ignorance of real problems in the world, that the F is an escape from the actual real world to symbolic through symbolic exchange. However, our Cohen evidence indexes this sort of escapism logic. It's the same logic that says that we can drain the planet of all of its resources and then we can just run away to Mars or whatever new planet that we can't have to drain the planet of all of its resources. It also says that we can escape away from global capitalism, which is a whole evidence that says that we are going to ban handguns in the first world so we don't have to see the global violence that has been caused by unregulated capitalism, which means that we can put a blind eye on the third world, but we put a blind eye on the third world. We don't see the pernicious effects that global warming's had on the rest of the world in these areas and also on these indigenous groups that live in the third world. These are the people that you're not paying attention to when you sit in the academy on your ivory tower, which means that you can never permanent critique because you don't take into account these material solutions. Now let's go from the AC top down. He says that he dissolves hierarchies. However, our argument is that you should not dissolve all hierarchies. There's a few good hierarchies that he's considered dissents on this, but also on the Sugarman evidence, he says that they normalize violence using guns. However, and he says that Trump is the reason for this. However, Trump is probably a testament to a larger issue with the human species. However, and probably an issue with our modern way of life that we are trying to sustain. However, you can extend the legendary evidence. He's not answering the actual fact that on news channels, you can see this on MSNBC, you can see this on CNN, you can see this in New York, you can see this in the New York Times. The media is inherently biased against guns. His arguments are not based on the actual notion of what the simulacra is now, but however, we need to look to material realists to understand the simulacra, which means that we cannot absolutely displace everything from the plane of real. His method means that we have to displace everything from the plane of real, which is the reason why you cannot vote for the methodology of the affirmative. When he says that the role of the battle is to vote for a liberation strategy, even under a framework he can vote for because he's not liberating anyone. He's only escaping from the logic that actually these people who are living in the third world and people who are actually oppressed are actually living in. They do not have the privilege of actually being able to escape the symbolic exchange. These are conceded arguments, but let's go on to the other key concerns that I read on case you can send divine evidence. He's not answering this well enough. This says that he causes ignorance to real violence. When he says that we can say that the system is good enough for weighing these issues. However, I think it's pretty clear to say that the genocide of people in the third world is probably bad. However, the notion of symbolic exchange is not allowed to account for this, which is a bad reason why you should not vote for his evaluations. This is not a dualism between humans and nature. This is just an index to his methodology, but also on the dollar evidence, he says that he reformulates the conception of death. However, our argument doesn't answer our argument. Our argument is that we keep talking about death in the way that we should redefine death and redefine death and redefine death. You are simply creating new static conception of death when you say that we're ultimately all going to turn to particles and just go back into nature. That you are just simply redefining death within a static narrative. You should just let it be, which is our alternative, which is to learn how to die gracefully. We need to recognize that death is going to happen no matter what the definition is, but we need to be okay with that and recognize that we have new political responsibilities to nature that the F has not realized. He says that time is cyclical coming off the Robinson evidence. However, he is not answered a dissent that says that there are probably some binaries in the world that are good. The liberal conception of consent and non-consent is probably a good conception so that we should not rape each other. We should have these regulatory abilities, which is the reason why we say that not all hierarchies are bad. We should be singular about what hierarchies we break down. Our role about is says that we should only break down the hierarchy of nature human dualism, which is the imminent educational responsibility in the Anthropocene, which is going to answer all of his role of the educator and role of the ballot arguments. He says we need a liberation strategy. However, I saw this best because I give material realities for how we can liberate the natural world. When he only talks in the context of humanity and how we can help us with our conception of death, but he never does anything to liberate nature in the first place from our human grasp, which is destroying it every second. And he is not recognizing the new political responsibilities, and he has not recognized the actual real mode of the political, which is necessary for us that cause real change. So let's move to the critique. He's conceding too much on the critique. You can extend the Cohen argument. In Cohen, he says that high theory is stuck in the first world and that we do not have the privilege to actually theorize about symbolic exchange. Your notions of symbolic exchange can only exist within debate rounds, but our notions about what we should do for the environment are appealing to people, and we can actually have real change, which is something that's conceded from the in his last speech on the swinging out evidence. This is absolutely crucial. He says that we have a new political responsibility to the earth. However, he says that companies are currently destroying the earth as it stands. That's exactly what we're saying. We're saying that the political needs to realize that we have absolutely screwed up the world around us, and that even though that we are absolutely done for, and that global climate change is absolutely going to kill humans, that we can still save the rest of the world while we still have a chance. We should make a significant effort to stop these approaches, which is something that the one sees that we cannot do. It says that the political cannot make these shifts. However, the belief in that we can is a sufficient reason, which is why this link is also a dissent to the perm, but also on the perm debate, he says that we should do both. However, you can't do that when I indict your methodology of what reversibility constitutes, because that's his internal link as to why you can perm. He also says do the Aff and then the L, but however, this is another link into the critique, because our argument is that we cannot wait now. The Anthropocene is happening right now. Extinction is right here, right now. We need to act now. He says that we can use the Aff and just constantly theorize, but when does the theorizing end? When do we realize that his conception of death is right? When do we actually have the effect that says that we need to do something about nature? This is not the methodology that we call for when we say that we need to dissolve dualism in practical ways in an educational space. This is an educational, this constitutes nothing, which means that he doesn't get any of his permits. I've already one dissets on the Robinson evidence, so we can't wait as an internal link to his permit. You can also extend the Hall evidence, which says this criminological approach is bad. When he bans handguns, that just is him turning a blind eye on the third one and affects that capitalism is not on the world, which means that he will never actually solve the actual cause of capitalism. Even if he concedes that capitalism is the root cause of violence, that is not a reason why he solves capitalism. Our argument is that the actual material actions that he does, the one material advocacy of the one I see, is bad for that case. Our Hall evidence is very specific to handguns. You can call the evidence after the round. Also, an ecological thought argument that says that we need to dissolve dualism because any effort that doesn't dissolve the nature of dualism divide, but only that divide is an effort not to actually recognize that we are going to die and that we need to be okay with that, and that is the only issue that matters.
Okay. Everyone good?
Yeah.
Using your binary evidence, but still, how can we know that understood the true evidence, which was from this year? It specifically states that our society, whether your specific news sources talk about whether or not they like guns is irrelevant. The point our society is literally oriented around commodification of violence through not only privatization of materiality, but through privatization of handguns specifically, which is a unique reason why the inherent gaze is still probably going to say need, since there's all more evidence that deny death is leads to an obsession with death, and that the alternative avoids this. This is absolutely not true. It's considered that the agency is about the indigenous cultures embracing death and how we can actually achieve that. He says the alternative escapes this, but it actually probably doesn't, because the alternative and the AC methodology, or the alternative and the AC are pretty much like, the alternative and the AC are the same. We both try to reconcile the fact that death is a non-event. Death is imminent. Death is going to freaking happen. We both acknowledge that, which is what's going to give me a little bit of leeway on the perm debate coming up. He says the find evidence which says that Baudrillard leads to genocide through operation with the Anthropocene, but he concedes the one data out of hominids are linked because it relies on a static structure of good and bad authors, which he is trying so hard to erase. He's trying to erase the dichotomies in the first place. Also, he's conceded that the app isn't a simulation app. I still recognize the material world. I'm just operating through a symbolic action. He's conceded that it is a link to the representation, not the methodology. Furthermore, he says that I concede that because some hierarchies are good, like the consent and non-consent, but he made absolutely no answer to the one AR answer that I made that says that Robinson does not, Robinson specifically says that being have no desire to harm or specifically rape each other. The context of the one is you can see Robinson 3 evidence which says that all differences are illusory. They are all perceived in the context of capitalism. That has given absolutely little to no lip service. He's not addressing the warrants within the one I see, which is really problematic because I'm crushing that. Let's go on to the Ecopesque. He says that I believe that symbolic exchange cannot exist in the real world, but the Robinson evidence is literally all about indigenous cultures existing in the real world and how they interact with their ways of lifestyles, how they interact with nature, how they interact with each other, and how we can strive to be more like them. Also, he has conceded my cross-application of the Ropic evidence, the Baudrillard-3 evidence, which says that materiality replicates the status quo. Sean is very persuasive, saying that, making a lot of extensions, saying that materiality is the only way out, but he does not address the error replication argument that says materiality just creates problems. This is where I win the round on the perm debate. You answer perm both and perm the AC, and then the alternative. You said the AC, then the alternative because extinction is now, but you do not answer the third permutation that I make that says do the alternative till the links are non-unique, and then negation. Symbolic exchange, the one AC. This is uniquely key because it solves the apocalypse that's happening now that is indicated within the critique offense, and then it allows us to embrace a indigenous way of life which upholds a symbolic interaction with nature so that we are able to peacefully coexist with nature. Also, you can see the offense that I believe to your rule about the Robinson evidence, which says that we give everything back to nature, and you also can see that I preclude your role about by saying,
which says that action without strategy is the only way out. But I mean, I have offense not only into his role about mine as well. He doesn't make any offense into mine, which means that the offense is pretty much like reverse Clausewitz linear.
This round's phenomenal. I don't judge a lot of LD rounds, and I'm unaware that this is what LD has become, and it makes me so happy. So that being said, I thought y'all did great. I ended up voting negative, and I think that the problem with the affirmative speeches is that there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of offense that I don't think the alternative solves for, which I don't think is necessarily like at a capital T truth level true, but I think that the way that this round kind of goes down. So I'll go through kind of what I thought the offense in the round was. The question of if all binaries are bad or if only some binaries are bad was the first thing that I thought about. and I think it's true that there's no response to this argument that Robinson's like inherently people don't do shitty things to each other, but it's only when you impose, simulacra upon them that happens. So I don't really think, so I do conclude that the consent arguments are not offense against you, but I think that the way that this kind of gets leveraged later in the debate, as to how, if it's true that, the binaries that the Aff disrupts beyond just the human nature one are ones that should be disrupted, that kind of begs the question of the impact to like the Anthropocene versus kind of capitalism writ large. And I do think that there's some inroads into your ability to solve capitalism writ large. And I do think that, if everyone died gracefully, that could solve large parts of the Anthropocene. The second is this ivory tower argument. And this is why I think that there's like some defense against your ability to solve. So I think that by itself, this argument's not super persuasive, but I think that you were doing a good job of contextualizing it to the Anthropocene, right? So I thought your argument is a smart argument, and the correct choice to make that, like, Robinson is citing indigenous cultures, the way in which they relate to death, right? But his argument is about climate change, which is a relatively new phenomenon, and the way that shapes how we should interact with nature. Which means that even if the affirmative, is in tune with indigenous cultures and the way that they relate to death, that doesn't kind of conceptualize the new relationship to nature that we need because of the crisis of the Anthropocene, and still seems human-centric to me in some way. Additionally, the evidence. The evidence talks about like the ways in which Baudrillard talks about famine and I think it says Ethiopia, I'm not sure. But all these problems happening in the third world, and I think that while you have an argument about why it would be potentially good if a symbolic exchange happened, I think you need to address more directly the press that it's not accessible, even if it's theoretically good, because it is academic, it is ivory tower, hard to export as a way. But I do think that given that the way that you contextualize the affirmative as like kind of the same as the all, or at least in terms of death, then I think in order to win the permutation, you have to also contextualize those death arguments to nature, right?
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense, yeah. So then the warming arguments, I think really by the end of the debate, the only response that I find persuasive is the permutation, which I'll talk about at the end, because this is the final part of my session. I looked at the permutation. The permutation you go for is do the alt and then the affirmative. I think that the alt solve. I don't think that you have an argument that the alt doesn't solve anything.
Okay.
I don't think you have defense or offense against the alternative, because you're going so hard for the permutation. So I don't understand what the net benefit to this permutation is. If we were to all die gracefully in order to solve the Anthropocene, I don't know then how handguns are relevant to anything.
All right.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think you should have gone for the perm do both and just been like, there's fundamentally no difference between these two positions. It's just a question of how we come to articulate them. But given that you do go for this like alt and then Aff permutation, I do think that you need more on-point response to some of these rhetorical criticisms too to make this persuasive. So like the escapism argument, this seems exactly what what this permutation is, right? That we should we should be concerned with the Anthropocene, and then once we do that enough, we can escape, right? Which seems to be that logic of get off the rock or whatever that justifies capital exploitation.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought it was a fantastic debate. What year are y'all?
I'm a senior.
Okay.
Junior.
Yo, you should hit me up. You should look at Indiana University when you're looking for schools. We got a debate team. Me and my partner read Baudrillard and Toulouse exclusively.
Awesome. My arcs. Our arcs, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're going, but if you want to, 360 it.
I'm dedicated to Lane, but I plan on trying to start a policy program.
Okay. And Lehigh?
What?
Lehigh, you said?
No, Tulane.
Tulane? Okay.